Hi, I'm Jennifer from CGJC Tools, and today we're going to be making this. This video series is going from beginning to end. We're going to have reference footage, modeling, creating UVs, textures, light setup, and rendering. This is the perfect video to watch if you want to make things in Maya from beginning to end. By the end of this series, you should feel more confident in the program and be able to create some really nice high quality products. In this first part of the video, we're going to be creating the 3D model. I'll go over various tools, including transforming curves into 3D shapes, extruding, beveling, importance of topology, and much more. And make sure to watch all the way through the end of the video so you don't miss any important tips and tricks on how to make your 3D models production quality. So let's dive in. The first thing I do with any 3D project, whether it's modeling, texturing, animation, rigging, simulating, any 3D project, is I find good reference. Reference is the key to creating realistic things or even cartoony things. This is something that a lot of beginners skip, or you think like, I'm just gonna draw it and then make it from whatever I wanna draw. The truth is that even top production level artists use references, and it's because it makes a huge difference in the way you work. It makes a difference in the way that you look at things, and how you think about them, and the decisions that you're gonna make artistically later on. So with that in mind, I actually own a Bevel, and I took pictures of it. If you're a complete beginner, I suggest that you start off with things that you have in your home, because it's something that you can look at, you can move it around, and you could really start analyzing, asking yourself like, where does the dust accumulate? Where do I've got the most scratches? Why would I have scratches there and not in this other part of the object that you're doing? So in the pictures that I took here, you can see that I took pictures at different angles, and if we zoom in, we can see some scratches, some dust, a bit of smudges. In the texturing tutorial, I'll exaggerate some of these features so we could really see them, but I still have the reference and I know exactly what kind of things I'm looking for now. The first thing we gotta do to begin in Maya is set our project and create our project folders. It's an important organizational tool and it's a good habit to get into, especially if you're looking to work at a production studio later on or with a big group of artists. This ensures that you're going to have all the folders exactly named the way that Maya likes to name them, and you can easily plug those file paths into your Maya scene for anything that you do, whether it's texturing, saving new scenes, if you ever go into XGen. Organization is key for Maya. Once these are created, we can start modeling. The first thing I like to do is come here to my reference image and pick a front view of my object. Then I'll go to the Properties tab in Windows. If you're on a Mac, you have to click on Get Info. And right here, I'll look at the dimensions of the photo. Now I'll go back to Maya, create a plane, and scale it to those dimensions of the photo. Now, obviously this is way too big, but I can use the middle axis of the scale tool to scale it down proportionally. Now that I've got it in a reasonable size that fits within this grid, I'll create a new shader, and under the color, I'll click on this checkerboard icon. That checkerboard icon allows me to plug in something into that color attribute. So what I'll do is I'll plug in a file path. And in that file path, I'll select this little folder, and I'll be able to navigate through my files and select that reference image. Now if I hit 6 on my keyboard, I can see the photo and it's rotated the wrong way. All I have to do to fix this is go to my Place 2D Texture node and rotate 90 degrees for the UVs. So if I hold down the space bar, I can go to my front view and see my photo. It's not perfectly a front view photo, but I can use it as a rough guide. If I select this plane and then click this little magnet icon up here, what it does is that it makes anything that I do next snap onto this plane. What I'm going to be doing is using the EP Curve tool. It's this tool right here. Once you click it, you can start drawing the curve. But the way you draw the curve is by putting down points. So now that I've made this plane snappable, when I put down a point, it's going to put it right on top of that plane. And as you can see, as I keep drawing points, a curve is being drawn along with it. One thing to keep in mind is that this curve tool constantly tries to curve between one point to the next. So if you have a big gap between points, it's going to try to make a really big curve. So if you want to get a sharper edge, you need to put down a little bit more points in order for it to turn the way you want it to turn. However, in this stage, I'm not too worried about getting it perfect because it's quite easy to adjust later on. When I'm done drawing all the points and seeing my curve, all I have to do is hit enter and you see the curve changes color. That means that I'm now in object mode. I'm going to hide my plane by hitting Ctrl H, and if I hold my right click, I can select the curve points. Now I can move from top to bottom and adjust each point as needed. The first and last point, I want to snap it to the grid in this dark bold black section here. That black line is right where the x-axis begins. And the reason for this is that you want it to be on the axis because that's what it's going to basically flip when you try to mirror an object from one side to the other. To do that, you just turn on this grid snapping right here, and you can go to the individual point, and as you move it, you see that it tries to snap onto the grid. Now I'm going to turn off snapping, and I'm going to go point by point from top to bottom and start adjusting them, trying to get them into a better position. I can now turn on my reference image to compare. All I have to do is go to the outliner and hit Shift H to show it again. This time, I'm going to put the image into a layer. If I click here, it puts the selected object into a layer, and I'm going to name this layer Ref. If I click here, I can change the status of this photo for T for template or R for reference. Reference mode means that the object cannot be selected, but it's still visible. And I'm going through to check my points and make sure that there aren't any knots just like this one here. Make my way down to this curve. You can see that at the bottom base of this bell, it's curved. But in reality, that's not the case. My photo is not 100% frontal view, so it kind of warps the bottom of the bell to look like it's curved. But because a bell is supposed to sit on a surface, this bottom part is actually supposed to be flat. Also, instead of a flat line, what you can do is draw the inside of the bell using these points, like this. Since I want to show you a variety of modeling tools, however, I'm going to correct this with a different tool later on. So for now, I'm going to keep it flat. You're not going to do anything perfect the first time around, so it's really important to know how to fix any mistakes you made or how to adjust for them. Once you have this curve looking like you want, you can select it and under Surfaces, click this square next to the word Revolve. This brings up the Revolve Options panel. We have to change a few settings here, and I'll go over some. By default, this is set to NURBS, but we actually want polygons. Polygons are what we use for modeling. We also want to keep this to quads for good topology workflow. You have several options here now. The best one for us is going to be curve points. This will create a vertex on every point. If you try general, you get a lot more options that you have to adjust. And it's a bit trickier to understand what you are going to get. Under count, you have to say how many vertices you want, which isn't something that you necessarily know at this point. Standard fit tries to guess how dense the mesh should be in different regions of the mesh based on where you place your points. As you can see, control points is our best choice for this purpose. Most of the time, this is the setting you're going to choose. Rarely have I ever picked any other option. So now we have a 3D mesh that is 360 around the axis, and we have a better idea of what it looks like. If there are any parts of this mesh that you don't like, you think that maybe some parts are too fat or too skinny or too big, you can easily adjust them. All you have to do is go back to your control points on the curve, and you can move them around. It automatically updates your 3D mesh. Once you adjust these, you can delete the curve. Once you delete the curve, you can come here to Edit, Delete History of the object. This clears out any information left behind by that curve. Next, I want to edit the bottom of the bell. I'm going to double click on my tool here, and I'm going to turn on Symmetry, and I'm going to set it to the x-axis. Now, when I try to select faces on one side of my mesh, you can see it selects the opposite side as well. I'll select all of the faces here at the bottom of the bell and just hit delete. Now, I'm going to show you the extrude option. So if I click on one edge and I double click it, it selects the entire edge loop from that edge. If I hit Ctrl E, this is the extrude function. You could also go to Edit Mesh, Extrude. Once you do this, your manipulator changes a bit and tries to allow you to move based on a new axis. You can use this, or you can go back to your normal manipulation tools and adjust this however you want. Extrusion kind of creates a duplicate of that edge or that face or the vertex and allows you to move and add more geometry. So as you can see here, I can just keep extruding a little bit and create this form of the inside of the bell. You can see that we have this empty region. In order to fix that, all we have to do is go to Mesh, Fill Hole, and you can see that it automatically places one face along those edges. Now, this face is an n-gon, meaning that it has more than 4 points on that face. This is bad topology. So what we have to do is use our multi-cut tool. With this tool, all you have to do is select one point or vertex, and then select the opposing vertex on the opposite side, and then hit enter. As you can see, a new edge is created. You can continue to do this on all the vertices along that face. This is much better topology. Now, I want to edit again from top to bottom, making sure that I have this looking exactly how I want it. So this ridge right here, I want to make it sharper. So I'm going to select the edge loops by double clicking on the edge. And those are the edges that I'm going to then bevel. You can do that by going to Edit Mesh, Bevel, or hitting Control B. In real life, it's really hard to find something that's 100% cut at a 90-degree angle. Almost everything has a sort of bevel effect. So what this does is, you can see it added an extra edge loop, and I've got this option here which when I adjust, you can see it get thinner or wider on how this curves on the edge, and it also makes that ridge much more sharp. As we keep moving on, looking through our mesh, not all of our edges can be solved with a bevel. In some instances, all we want to do is add an edge loop in order to give a sharpening effect. So all you have to do is go to Insert Edge Loop tool, click on an edge, and instantly it creates an edge loop. I'll continuously go through this mesh and add some edge loops. As you can see, I'm adjusting them, moving them up and down, kind of scaling them, trying to get them into a position that makes more sense for the flow of my topology and my object. Top of my bell, I have a hole. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did for the bottom of the bell. I'm going to select these faces and delete them. Then I'm going to extrude the outer edge to create the interior faces. Then I'm going to use the Mesh Fill Hole tool to create that extra face. Now to clean up my topology, I'm going to use the multi-cut tool and create the extra edges that I need. I can also add additional edge loops to enhance the transition. This section here on my real life bell isn't perfectly round like it is in my model right now. The edges around my bell are actually a bit straight. It isn't a perfect rectangle, but it isn't a perfect cylinder. It's somewhere in between. So I'm going to select the edges and bevel them. Even though they don't connect, it's okay. The bevel tool will create a triangle at the points that will create a nice transition. Once I create the bevel, I can adjust the settings as needed. To really sell this transition, I need to add some extra edge loops to define this section of the bell. If you have an edge loop that you don't like the location of, you can use the Slide Edge tool. This way you can slide it up and down the mesh without having to scale as you move. And you can continue the flow that the geometry already has. I'll just speed up this part of the video. All I'm doing is going through and making changes. I'm adjusting from top to bottom and constantly rotating around my object to make sure that it looks the way that I want. As I go through, I might play with different topology as well. Might delete some edges, insert some more, and slide some edges around, just to see what works best. Once it looks the way that I want, I can continue going down and adding edge loops, moving them around, adjusting the shapes as I see fit. I want to model something from a photo, but I'm also adjusting to make changes to create something aesthetically pleasing. It's looking good. And that concludes our video. A virtual high five and a round of applause for learning something new. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Also check out our links below for some cool CG stuff, our social media pages, and our Patreon page. I'll see you in the next video.